Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
A lot of those same just very misguided, pieces of advice that are rooted in just really fundamental misunderstandings in physiology and biochemistry and endocrinology. And it's so harmful because the advice is given with absolutely no backup. It's well, if your lower half wasn't as heavy, maybe you double flip. Okay, when you tell that to a 14-year-old, all they think is, well, I guess I have to eat less. Like, if you're really that concerned, why don't we send them to an actually qualified dietitian who can really help evaluate, is this athlete fueled? Because that's honestly probably the bigger issue. And obviously, you have the PT kind of strength side of it, but I would say that just very rarely is it truly a weight issue. And if it is a weight issue, you have to ask, what is the cost? What is the cost of trying to, quote, lose 5 pounds? Like, that's, any form of dieting is going to put the body in a negative energy balance. And we know that's going to have ill effects in terms of performance and recovery and training adaptation. And so, what's the cost of this journey to try to lose 5 pounds through either restriction or overtraining, or probably both? Like, yeah, you might get smaller at some point, but now we've really primed the body for weight regain, if not overshoot. And we're in physically horrible shape, right? We're undernourished, and that just simply is not giving the body the building blocks it needs to grow and repair.
Yeah.
I mean, the code of points as it stands has such an emphasis on power and of difficulty, that alone is going to make changes to the body that are not going to be reflective of what the gymnast body looked like, 2 or 3 decades ago. And it's not a bad thing either. And if you look at the best of the best in the world, they're women, right? These female gymnasts are full-bodied women that are strong and powerful, and they are all different.
Badasses.
Yeah. And the coaches, there's so many options for series and skills and ways that you can compile a routine to still score well and be in the favor of the athlete, but also support their body type and their strengths. And so, I think, and I'm just going to say it as it is, the gyms that still demand that every gymnast do the same bar routine and every gymnast do the same series on beam, and the 1 or 2 gymnasts whose body types just don't really fit that just get kind of ostracized. It's just inexcusable. It's the smartest coach wins in terms of creating a routine with minimal deductions that meets the requirement and suits the athlete.
I want to make the team. I want to make lineup. I just need to run more, eat less, and then not miss any workouts. So what is wrong with that, Christina?
Yeah, I mean, just so much. I mean, I think the biggest thing to point out, and we have a lot of this research coming out in terms of what we call relative energy deficiency in sport, or the syndrome that happens when an individual is underfueled. They're not eating enough to support basic life functions, growth, development, recovery, and certainly not the thousands of calories that are burnt each week, training 20 plus hours a week. And we know that athletes who are underfueled, who spend more of the day underfueled, often tend to have higher, body fats. And they have this disfavorable body composition where we don't have as good of muscularity as we should. We do have a little bit higher body fat. And I think a lot of that goes into just spending too much of the day in a negative energy balance.
Right.
We give food too much power. I think this is why clean eating and food rules and all of that is so harmful, because it creates this morality with food that it's good or bad. And that leads to guilt and shame and these just crazy, extreme, overcompensatory behaviors. And the body fights back. The body doesn't want to starve. That is an evolutionary mechanism where, your brain is just trying to protect you. And so, yeah, you have the pizza Friday night, you feel guilty Saturday morning, you starve all weekend, you over-exercise, but Monday, gosh, you are set up for huge binges and overeating. And I think that's where a lot of athletes are stuck on, is that treadmill of the binge restrict, which over time often is going to push the body to a place that is not where you want to be. So yeah, I think we've all been there. I think diet culture, I think our society, I think the multi-billion-dollar industry that promotes weight loss and diets as a means to success and to worthiness makes it seem like a very simple equation of eat less, move more.
Yep.
That is just not, it's just not how the body is designed to be. And
it's a combination of working with people and then having those guidelines that are acceptable for your own happiness and health, not what anybody else thinks, but your internal marker. And then also just really not judging yourself or tearing yourself to shreds when you do have some moments where you want to completely chill and sit on the couch, watch Netflix and have pizza. It's a good way to recover.
Yeah, it is. And I think in our larger culture, it's do more is always the answer. And I agree. I didn't do therapy until college. Didn't tell anyone, didn't even tell my parents. It was such a huge thing with so much stigma and shame. But it took me hitting rock bottom of just finally being so miserable with food and my body and the starving and the binging. And I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done. And it's like, I tell my clients, I'm kind of important, but therapists are so much more important.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I want to do this podcast and why I think the podcast is valuable to people, because I was the same way. It took crippling anxiety and depression and loneliness and hopelessness before I realized I should start reaching out to people and getting help. And then when I did, I was like, I'm such an idiot for not doing this 5 years ago, right? If I just valued my own opinion of myself more than other people's opinions of their judgment of me, I would have been able to find these people 5 years earlier and save myself a lot of misery. So anybody that's listening, that's like on the edge of, I want to work with a nutritionist, I want to email Christina, I want to find a therapist, I want to talk to somebody, and your negative squawking voice is saying like, you're weak, don't do it. Like, it's all false. And I've never met somebody who was worse after they made that decision because they realized it was fear of judgment and it was fear of their peers. If your friends shit on you for going to therapy and talking to a nutritionist, you need new friends. So later.
Yep, 100%. I have a very high level gymnast that we just convinced to get some help and get some therapy, and it's going to be a game changer for her and her career. But it took her coach saying the world would be a better place if we all went to therapy. And I agree. I think everyone can benefit from what I call a neutral third party who can help you, put your junk on the table and see it for what it is and learn healthy ways to cope and take care of yourself, because life is hard and it's complicated. And we have, broken homes and families and everyone has their thing that, even your closest friends and teammates probably don't know about, but has a huge impact on the way that you view yourself, your relationship with food in your body, other, things that are abused. Yeah, I mean, I am all about getting in bed. I tell athletes all the time that literally the time you spend in bed is like free work that your body can do that you're not actually having to do. And, we know from the research that like under 6 hours of sleep, you're cognitively impaired. Like you're not going to make good decisions. Your brain's going to be slow. Everything's going to be more difficult. Obviously recovery, muscle protein synthesis and recovery, all of that happens in deep sleep that you're just not going to get there with 5 or 6 hours of sleep. From an appetite perspective, when you don't get enough sleep, your body realizes it needs energy. And while it really needs energy from sleep and recovery, now you're awake. So all it wants is something quick. Yep. And that's where, quote, cravings and feeling like you can't stop eating, feeling like you're just beyond hungry, even though you think you're eating enough. I mean, that is so impacted by inadequate sleep that for a lot of these athletes struggling, whether it's recovery or with food or their body, just the task of creating, a bedtime routine, implementing sleep hygiene and getting that 8 to 9, 10 hours a night can just do wonders without having to work. And yes, it is work to get off your phone and, to get in bed and to be disciplined enough to, take care of the things you need to. And at the same time, be able to be okay with not finishing everything.
We're supposed to go. Next is I'm the only one struggling with this, right? Like with food and with body image and stuff. And I'm just being a baby. And at my point in life in college, when I was not as moral of a man, I said, this is only a problem for girls. And I just need to suck it up and work harder, right? That was like, you talk about like male culture and like male hard, like go hard all the time culture. That was it. It was like, you're being a bitch, figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, don't talk about it, stuff it away, go work harder, go lift more weights, and stop complaining. Like, that's really what I grew up in terms of like guy culture, especially. It's not so much in gymnastics culture. I think that's mainstream alpha male culture. So that is 100% what I thought in terms of being alone, I think is the key there. And we kind of hit on already is like having the right environment and friends. But yeah, this is kind of more of a mental health one, I guess, than a nutrition science one. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with comparison. And I mean, that's the thief of joy. And I think, I'm sure males are just as bad, but obviously I can't say that as well as females.
Totally.
I mean, like, locker room talk about food and body stuff is so toxic. And, blinders on. I say all the time that, you need what you need, and what you need to eat and what you need to do to take care of yourself and your mental health has absolutely nothing to do with anyone else. Yet, in a sport where we do watch other people, we are like comparing and trying to see like, oh gosh, are they better than me? Am I better than her? Like, where am I measuring up here? I think that really sets everyone up for struggling alone, because in their minds, you decide that you're the only one that isn't achieving XYZ. And then it's easy to just blame it on food in your body. A lot of the high level gymnasts I work with, they tell their teammates, because they ask, their teammates are like, what are you eating? They'll be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm eating. I'm working with my nutritionist and I'm feeling great and I'm doing what I need. And that's what I'm doing. Instead of like, well, I only eat this, or I'm not going to eat that. Like, even just that shift is eye-opening. The response is like, what? You don't just like have a diet?
That's cool. I don't think I've ever like even thought about that, but I'm happy to hear that some people are transitioning away from like not in a rude way, but like, doesn't matter what I'm doing because I'm not you and you're not me.
And I think I was like a freshman in college. I was at some like, it was like a campus crusade retreat, and it was like a breakout session on that. And I was like, wait, so you're telling me that like my whole life I've been striving for like the best education, which is going to get me the most money, which is going to allow me to buy the best things, and is going to allow me to look the most attractive and to find the best, mate, and then to have the smartest kid. Like, what? You're telling me that that's not going to bring happiness?
That is I'm so happy you said that, right? Because I took the Yale had a free course on happiness like a while back ago, and it was like reaffirming a lot of things I said. But if you really think about it, and this is a tough reality for a lot of people, who does the American dream serve, right? Make a lot of money, have a perfect body, and find the perfect trophy wife or husband or whatever, get a great job, have a great house, buy a lot of stuff. Who does that serve? The companies. That's the marketing and the company people. Look at marketing. Marketing is less than culture. You're not good enough. You need this. It's not bad. You're not pretty enough. You're not fit enough. You're not making enough money. Like, all that serves is big ass corporations with really rich people. So like, none of those things that you're preached at as the American dream, especially as the transition out of college, is where I started to learn this when I was like, okay, no gymnastics. Now I'm in the real world. What should I chase? I chased money, fame, social media status, attention, relationships, and like the most attractive person with the biggest job. I need the biggest house and all that. It was the opposite of what made me happy. And going the complete left way or away from that, like just enough money to be happy, right? Which is over like, I think over 50,000, they say 60,000 is like, you can like plateau, and then like nothing else makes you happy, or it's exponentially worse. But like an average side house, I like my job. It's fun for me. I don't make a ton of money, but I like it, like passionate and thing. It's crazy how the opposite of the American dream is what made me happy.
No one food causes weight gain in and of itself. Food is made of energy, of calories, which is a measure of heat that food gives off in the body. And so, while yes, fat has double the calories per gram of fat that protein or carbs do, no food is magical in the sense that like somehow if you eat it, it's just going to directly get stored as fat, versus if you eat these like healthy, clean foods, that's, going to burn fat. And I think that's just the fallacy and the logic of the diet industry and of diet culture. And I mean, I talk about all the time, but like clean eating, that's really where this fear stems from, is like the low carb people, the low fat people, and then the clean eating, bodybuilding world, where I said this, I think in the other podcast, even bodybuilders have figured out that, if you stay within your energy needs, you can eat anything. Like people get shredded to like super physiological levels of leanness while eating carbs and sugar and Pop-Tarts and all the rest. Now, I'm not saying that's a healthy, sustainable thing to engage in, but fundamentally, if that was possible, which it is possible, then food in and of itself doesn't cause weight gain or weight loss. You know, it's about context. Sometimes the scariest thing I have to do is ask my gymnast to eat carbs at practice. And for a lot of them, it is earth shattering. They're terrified, but a lot of, I've had one person that's really struggled, which really lends itself to the definitely some more disordered eating going on. Everyone else, I have yet to have a gymnast not improve their performance by fueling their workout with adequate carbs. And none of them experienced negative body changes at all.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it's part of living in diet culture, and gymnastics is just a even more concentrated form of that. And so it's education. It's everything I talk about on Instagram and in my blogs and in my Facebook group, and really helping parents, because parents are impacted. You know, parents live in diet culture too. And yes, proper nutrition and proper sleep and proper training and periodization and recovery. Like, there are so many things that you can do to improve your own performance that isn't just about weight. And again, like, we have no research to show that being at a certain weight or certain body fat is going to get someone to achieve what they're chasing. It's just not there.
Right.
And so that's why, like I said, I don't care what you weigh. I don't care what your body fat is. I care that you're healthy. I care that you're properly fueled. I care that you're sleeping. I care that your stress is managed. And I think it just takes looking at the broader picture of, again, it's what is the cost? What is the harm? What is the risk? And for what? And I think, and I'm going to call it out here, you know, I'm a judge. I'm a college judge. There is not a single deduction for cellulite, for body fat, for not having a six pack. And so I think that kind of segues to, I think so many gymnasts do go down that path when they retire, because it's aesthetic, it's a goal, it's the strength training, it's all of it, but it's not going to bring you the happiness that you're looking for. And being that lean is like zero performance level.
Yeah.
You have no strength, you have no libido, you are tired all the time, you're not sleeping, your cortisol's through the roof. Like, that is aesthetic. That is not performance.
Yep.